Good morning, Live Oak Church. Today we're going to continue on our series of biblical love, looking at what the Bible has to say about love and how do we practically live out the command that Jesus gave us to love one another as he loved us. Well, for the rest of this week, we're going to look at practical applications of love and how do we love as family, how do we love as servants, and how do we love as disciple makers, which is our life group identities here at Live Oak Church. So today we're going to focus specifically on how do we love as family. But before we jump into how to love as family, I think it's first and foremost very important for us to settle in our minds that we are family. God has brought us together. In fact, in Galatians 3:26, Paul writes to the church in Galatia saying, "For in Christ you are all sons of God through faith." So through our faith in Christ, through what Christ has done on the cross and our faith in him, he has brought us together as a family. We are sons and daughters of God, and that should bind us together. And so just like our physical families here on earth, we have an identity, but our identity is in Christ, not in a last name. We are Christians. That is our identity. And again, like our families here on earth, we don't get to choose who is part of the family. We're going to have differences. We're going to have different backgrounds, different thoughts, different opinions, different hobbies. We're not all going to be just alike. And that should be celebrated, that we are different and we come together as one body. In fact, in 1 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 13, Paul writes, "For in one spirit we were all baptized into one body. Jews or Greeks, slaves or free, and all were made to drink of one spirit." So Paul's reminding them that we're going to come from different places, but we are family. We are all one body, and that binds us together. We can't just leave the family maybe on the physical earth we can go change our last name or something, but once we are sons and daughters of God, we are all family, and we need to start acting like it. Secondly, I think it's important to remind ourselves that Christ died for the church. Christ didn't die for a physical building. Christ died for the church, the body of believers whom he has called. In Ephesians 5:25, it says, "Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her." Well, he didn't give himself up for a physical building. It's important that we have a physical building to be able to meet, but the church is the body of believers, and we are the church. And I think it's tragic that people today in our culture can be a part of a church, right? They go to church, but yet they don't participate in the body of believers. That's just not scriptural. So we have to participate in the body of believers and be a part of the family and what the family is doing, not separate ourselves from that, because that's not living out our Christian life. So let's get on to the question of the day. How do we love biblically as a family? Well, Paul in 1 Corinthians chapter 12, he's talking using this imagery or analogy of us as a body, a physical body with hands and feet and ears and eyes, that none of us are individuals in this walk as Christians. We are all bound together. So he uses this imagery of a body, and he goes on in chapter 12, verse 24 to say, "But God has so composed the body, giving greater honor to the part that lacked it, that there be no division in the body, but that the members may have the same care for one another. If one member suffers, all suffer together. And if one member is honored, then all rejoice together." So a few things we can point out here and we can see is that first, we must always seek unity in the body. He says in Ephesians 4:23 that we should seek unity with all humility and gentleness, with patience, bearing with one another in love, eager to maintain the unity of the Spirit in the bond of peace. We should seek unity, and we should do that with all humility and meekness. Secondly, I see in this verse that we must care for one another, we must suffer together, and we must rejoice together. Those are all part of sharing life together. We have to share life together. And in order to share life together in that way, we must spend time together. There's no way that we can suffer together, that we can rejoice together, that we can care for one another if we don't spend quality time together and on a regular basis. We have to know one another to love one another. And I think that's the important part today that we need to take away from what Paul is telling us here is that we have to spend time for one another, to know each other's weaknesses, to know each other's strengths, and to be able to care for one another. So I hope that encourages you and maybe challenges you this morning, that you would spend more time with the family that Christ has put you together with. I'll talk to you tomorrow.